Jack the Ripper remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. His brutal crimes, shrouded in secrecy and fear, terrorized London's Whitechapel district in 1888. Despite extensive investigations, his identity was never confirmed, leaving a legacy of intrigue and speculation. The legend of Jack the Ripper endures, a haunting reminder of fear and mystery. During the late 19th century, Whitechapel was a densely populated, poverty-stricken area in London's East End. Crime, disease, and destitution were rampant. Many women, particularly those living in extreme poverty, resorted to prostitution to survive. The area was a maze of dark alleys and narrow streets, providing the perfect cover for a killer to strike undetected. The London Metropolitan Police struggled to maintain order in the district. The lack of street lighting, combined with an overburdened police force, meant crime was widespread, and law enforcement was limited in its abilities. At least 5 murders have been definitively linked to Jack the Ripper. These women, now known as the Canonical Five, were all brutally killed between August and November 1888. Mary Ann Polly Nichols was found dead in Bucks Row at around 3:40 a.m. Her throat was slashed twice and her abdomen had deep incisions. However, her murder, though gruesome, was not as extreme as those that followed. Annie Chapman was murdered on Hanbury Street. Her throat was slit and her body was mutilated with surgical precision. Some of her organs were removed, leading to speculation that the killer had medical knowledge. Elizabeth Stride, often considered a Ripper victim, was killed in Dutfield's yard. However, her body was not as mutilated as the others. Some believe the killer may have been interrupted before completing his gruesome work. On the same night as Elizabeth Stride's murder, Catherine Eddowes was found in Mitre Square. Her injuries were far more brutal. Her throat was cut, her face was slashed, and her kidney had been removed. The location of her murder was outside the usual Whitechapel area, leading to the belief that the Ripper moved strategically. Mary Jane Kelly was the last and most horrifically mutilated of the Ripper's known victims. She was murdered indoors, in her room at Miller's Court. Unlike the others who were killed in dark alleyways, Kelly's murder allowed the killer more time. Her body was severely mutilated, with her organs spread around the room. Her face was almost unrecognizable. During the investigation, police and newspapers received numerous letters claiming to be from Jack the Ripper. Some were obvious hoaxes, while others have been debated for authenticity. The Dear Boss letter, dated September 25, 1888, was signed Jack the Ripper. It mocked the police and claimed he would continue his killings. The name stuck, forever branding the murderer with this infamous title. The Saucy Jack postcard arrived shortly after the double murders of Stride and Eddowes, referencing details that had not yet been released to the public. The most chilling of all, the From Hell letter was sent to George Lusk, leader of the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee. It was accompanied by a piece of human kidney, supposedly from one of the victims. The letter, written in crude handwriting, simply stated, "From Hell. Mr. Lusk, sir, I send you half the kidney I took from one woman, and I preserved it for you. The other piece I fried and ate it. It was very nice. Signed, Catch Me When You Can." This letter led to speculation that the killer may have been a deranged cannibal. The Metropolitan Police and Scotland Yard faced immense pressure to catch the killer. Hundreds of suspects were questioned, and Whitechapel was heavily patrolled at night. However, forensic science was in its infancy. There were no fingerprinting or DNA analysis techniques. Police attempted to use bloodhounds to track the killer, but the idea was abandoned. Witnesses gave conflicting descriptions, and the media frenzy created an atmosphere of paranoia and false accusations. One significant clue was the Golston Street graffito, a message scrawled on a wall near a blood-stained piece of Catherine Eddowes' apron. It read, "The Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing." The meaning of this cryptic message is still debated. Fearing it would incite anti-Semitic riots, the police quickly erased it. Over the decades, numerous suspects have been suggested, ranging from doctors and butchers to members of the British royal family. Some of the most notable theories include Aaron Kosminski, a Polish barber with a history of mental illness. In 2019, DNA evidence supposedly linked Kosminski to the case, but the findings remain controversial. Montague John Druitt, a barrister and schoolteacher who committed suicide shortly after the murders. His family believed he was responsible. Sir William Gull, a royal physician linked to the royal conspiracy theory, which suggests the murders were part of a cover-up involving Prince Albert Victor. H. Holmes, the notorious American serial killer, active around the same time. Some believe he traveled to London and committed the murders before returning to the U.S. Jill the Ripper. Some theories propose that the killer was a woman, possibly a midwife who could move around without suspicion. Despite these theories, no conclusive evidence has ever identified Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper's crimes changed the way serial killers were viewed and investigated. His case exposed flaws in Victorian policing, leading to advancements in forensic science. The mystery remains an obsession for criminologists, historians, and true crime enthusiasts. His legend lives on in books, films, and theories. Whitechapel has become a tourist attraction, with Jack the Ripper tours drawing thousands of visitors every year. More than a century later, Jack the Ripper remains one of the most terrifying and elusive figures in criminal history. His identity may never be discovered, ensuring that his legacy of fear and mystery endures.